So I hope you can hear me, and in just 1 second, you can see me as well. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Hi. Hey. So I hope this thing is working. I'm trying something new today, and I'm streaming to LinkedIn. I'm not just streaming to YouTube and Twitch, but today I'm streaming to LinkedIn as well. Let me see. Let me have a look at if this works. So yeah, that looks good. It's a bit laggy on LinkedIn. Still shows the opening screen on YouTube. Let me see on YouTube. Just 1 second. I'm just trying this. In the chat, please let me know if you can hear me, if you can hear me well. I think I've turned on the microphone. Yes, and no box. Hey, Sean. Hey, Thumbless66. How are you doing? Good to see you. No box. Yeah, now I get it. That's what you mean, no box, right? So I set up manual focus, and I hope everything's working. So if I get too close or too far away, it's okay. It's no box, and that's the most important thing. Hey, Rajaseka K. Yes, we can hear you. That's great. Awesome. Cool. So I'm trying this out now. It's the first time I'm also streaming to LinkedIn. Let me see if anybody's watching. Well, I don't know if anybody's watching on LinkedIn. However, I can see that it works. And it works on YouTube, I think. Yeah, it looks like I'm live. Let me see. Well, YouTube takes a second, and Twitch. What about Twitch? Twitch looks good too. Okay, cool. Okay, then let me shut that down, because that shouldn't use any resources, because I'm running OBS, and I'm running OBS on a Mac, and OBS on a Mac it sounds like an airplane. It sounds like that thing is going to take off in a second. It's heating my whole place. That's how it is. Okay, cool. Let me just tweet real quick. We're live. No, I'm not going to tweet that now. Cool. If you are joining from YouTube, you are eligible to win AWS credits in this show. If you are on Twitch or on LinkedIn, I would advise you to, give me a second, I would advise you to go to this address instead, and I'm going to post that here. Let me see. Watch this on YouTube to get a chance to win AWS credits, because, let's see, I'll post that. Because, oh, it doesn't post to LinkedIn. Okay, cool. Anyway, because my chatbot is not able to monitor Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn, it's only monitoring YouTube. So if you want to be part of the raffle, I will start the giveaway now. And there should be a chat message in just 1 second. So everybody, thanks for joining. My name is Dennis. I'm a developer advocate with Amazon Web Services. I used to be a solutions architect in the past. And what I'm doing here is every second Friday, I'm running a 1-hour show where we go through a number of AWS certification practice questions. These are questions from the Solutions Architect Associate certification, but they also apply to the Developer Associate and the Sysadmin Associate certification. So if you're studying for your exam, or if you just are new to AWS or want to brush up your skills, this is a great place to go, because I'm not only giving you the answers to certain questions, but I'm also discussing why the correct answers are correct, why the other answers aren't correct, and also how things work on AWS. And it's a great chance for you to ask your questions, if you have them, in the chat, no matter where you are. And let me look at that real quick. I'll remove my name. Here we go. And I will add this banner. Does that work? Yeah. Welcome to the live AWS certification quiz. And that's that. Cool. So welcome, everyone. A few people are watching already. That's really great. And I would say, just to get it started, to let me know, where are you all from? I'm from Germany. I'm here in Hamburg, close to the North Sea. Well, close. It's about 100 kilometers. So I'm in northern Germany, in Hamburg, but as far as I know, there are people watching this from all over the place. I've got many guests from India, from Turkey, from the United States. Well, people in the US may still be sleeping, depending on what part of the US. Unless you're planning on taking the test, let me put that up here. Yeah, you're planning on taking the test in the next 30 to 60 days. Well, that's good. That's great news. Just make sure that you get your tests scheduled, because then once you have a date, you just can go for it, study for it. But given your answers on my quizzes in the past on YouTube and also on this stream, you're going to do fine. I'm sure you will. Let me know how it went. Please just send me a message once you got to sit the exam. Let me know how it went. Yeah, Raja's from India. Mesa AZ, that's Arizona? Is that 6 a.m. at your place? Well, that's early. Dude, great. I mean, it's great to have people getting up this early to watching this show. So we've got someone from India, somebody from Arizona. I'm from Germany. We have a few other people on the chat. If you don't want to chat, that's totally fine. You can lurk if you want. There's no obligation. Raja from India, welcome. Have you been here before? I'm not sure if I've seen you. If you haven't, for everybody who's new to this stream, welcome. We will talk all things AWS. And I would say, let's get right into it. Okay? And if you have any questions, please just let me know. One of the things that I'm wondering right now is the chatbot should be picking up, should have sent something, but it did not. And I'm wondering why that is. Can you, either of you, do me a favor and please type exclamation. So if you're on YouTube, that's very important. If you're on YouTube, can you please type exclamation mark? Let me see. Can you type exclamation mark points? Yeah, can you do that real quick? I just want to see if the chatbot is picking this up. Not points. Am I getting anything? I'm not sure if the chatbot really got connected because it's not saying anything. Oh, okay, cool. It works. I have 30 points. Thumbless has 17 points. Cool. And thank you for trying that. So I'll go back to giveaways. Raja, you have 0 points. That's fine because you have just joined the channel, and Thumbless has been around for some time. Anyway, the points don't really matter because I'm not using the points right now. What I'm doing is I'm going to start a raffle, and for some reason, it didn't really start. Let me see. Let me start it again. Here we go. Start giveaway. So now we should get a message from the Streamlabs bot. I'm just going to wait for a second. Okay, here we go. A raffle has started for viewers. Use exclamation mark raffle to enter the raffle. So if you want to have a chance to win AWS credits worth $25 to use in your account so that you can try things that may not be part of the free tier, if you don't want to spend your own money, please take part in the raffle. Type exclamation mark raffle, and maybe you'll be a lucky winner at the end of the show. Anyway, I'm going to start now. So let's see. I'm going to add this to the stream. Cool. That looks good. Okay. Yeah, just do like Thumbless does, and you need to be on YouTube to be able to do that. Let's start. Perfect. So we've got Raja and Sean, Thumbless 66, and the raffle. Very good. Okay, so let's start with the first question. Let us start with the first question. I'm speaking too quickly, and that's where it gets where I start stumbling because I'm not a native speaker. Anyway, This is a very, very, very nice question because it looks into a service that is often overlooked and that has a lot of configuration options that might trip you over, especially if you're planning to do the certification. The storage gateway is being used for as part of the exam in many questions. So which of the following storage gateway options is best for reducing the costs associated with an offsite disaster recovery solution? We do have A, file gateway, B, cached volume gateway, C, stored volume gateway, and D, tape gateway. Chat, what do you think? We've already have one answer by Raja. Very good. Do we have another answer? Anybody else? Do you have an answer? Is it file gateway, cached volume gateway, stored volume gateway, or tape gateway? Raja has already answered, and I will go into the correct answer in just a second, and I will briefly explain as well what the others are. So Thumbless says D as well. Let's see. We don't have too many people on the chat yet, so I think I'll just resolve this one, and both of you are, drum roll, correct. Very good, very good. Now, chat, I'm just gonna, real quick, I'm going to go into what these options are and how they are different. And so starting with a file gateway, the whole name of the service being Amazon S3 file gateway. And what that does is it provides an NFS and SMB interface, excuse me, interface on top of objects in Amazon S3. So you can store your files in S3, but you can still access them with a POSIX compliant client using the SMB or the NFS protocol. So you can basically use S3 like a file system. This is just cheap storage for files with an NFS or SMB interface. The second thing, B and C, both are options, are modes of the volume gateway. And the volume gateway basically is a service that stores your data on premises, so close to you, as well as in the cloud. And this is being used a lot for backup, for redundancy, and so forth. The difference between the cached volume gateway and the stored volume gateway is the following. With the cached volume gateway, all your data is stored in AWS, and you have a copy of all the regularly, frequently used objects on premises as well in the volume gateway. So for low latency reasons. So you basically have all your data in the cloud for inexpensive storage, but the data that you're frequently accessing is cached on-site. So you have quick access to it. The other one, the stored volume gateway, basically keeps all your data on-site, but creates a backup, basically replicates it into the cloud. So you have all your data on-site, and you have an asynchronous copy in the cloud, as opposed to the cache volume gateway, where all the data is in the cloud and just the regularly used data is on-site, close to you. That's the difference. And the correct answer to the question is tape gateway. And this is a virtual tape library, a VTL service, which really works like a tape library for data archival. And this really is the lowest cost solution for offsite disaster recovery, because you can store your data in that virtual tape library, and whenever it's not needed anymore, you can have it sent to the archive, which is using either Glacier or Glacier Deep Archive to store your data at a very low cost. And this really is an offsite disaster recovery solution, because you can always go back and get the data from the tape gateway and recreate it again, basically. That's that. If you have any questions, please let me know. If there's anything unclear, please just say so in the chat. Hey, SBC, good to see you. Great you're here again. I've seen you've been very active on the questions in the last few weeks. Thank you for that. And you're also in the raffle already. Cool. Great. So good to see you all. This was the first question. I will just quickly jump ahead to the next one. Here we go. When creating a security group, and this is VPC networking security, when creating a security group, which of the following are true? And two of those are true. A, all inbound traffic is allowed by default. B, all outbound traffic is allowed by default. C, allowed inbound connections must explicitly be allowed back out. Or D, allowed inbound connections are automatically allowed back out. Please chat, let me know in the chat, what do you think? Is it A, B, C, or D? Two of those are correct. Let me know which these are, and I really need to take a sip of water. And it really is water. Too early. So, okay, we've got different answers, which is really great. So Raja says B and D. SBC says A and B. Do we get any more answers? Thumbless, what do you think? A and B, okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Vivek, hey Vivek, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Vivek says B and D, so we have Pawan. So good, great. We have Raja saying B and D. We have SBC saying A and B. Thumbless saying A and B. Vivek saying B and D. Pawan, good to see you. Great that you're on the show, says B and D. And Christian O2 says B and D. So if this were a democracy, B and D would be correct, because we've got 4 people saying B and D and 2 people saying A and B, and B and D is correct. Thumbless and SBC, I assume that you confused the security group default setting with the network ACL default setting, because with a network ACL, you would be correct. In a network ACL, also NACL and ACL, all inbound traffic and all outbound traffic is allowed by default. And that is true for a network ACL. It is not true for a security group. And the difference between the two is very important. You can use, or you should rather use both. Both work like a firewall, but the correct answer here is B and D. In a security group, all inbound traffic is blocked by default, and all outbound traffic is allowed by default. So the instance sitting behind the security group cannot be reached from the outside by default. It is completely isolated. It cannot be reached, but it itself can reach to the internet and, for instance, get updates, get a security patch, or whatever it needs. So by default, it is not accessible from the outside, but it can go to the internet to get what it needs. And D, allowed inbound connections are automatically allowed back out. And this is a capability of security groups that also has a name. It's an how do you say in English? I'm blanking out here. I'm sorry. It's an attribute. It's an attribute. It's a property of a security group. And the network ACL has a different property. Anyone in the chat, just for you, do you know what that is called? The fact that a security group automatically allows outbound traffic for incoming traffic. And there's a word for that, and I'll resolve that in a second. While you're typing that in the chat, whoever knows what I'm talking about here, just real quick, the difference between a security group and a network ACL. Both basically are firewalls. both act as a firewall, the security group on the instance level. So the security group protects the network interface, the ENI, the Elastic Network Interface, and the network ACL protects the subnet itself. So it defines what is allowed into the subnet and out of the subnet. And the security group defines what is allowed into the actual interface, network interface of the EC2 instance, and what is allowed out. And the difference here really is, as SBC says it here, stateful. That's what I was looking for. Christian O2 says, right, a security group is stateful, and the network ACL, the access control list, is stateless. And this is exactly what that means. What D is describing here, that means a firewall is stateful. So any traffic that comes in, for any request that comes in that is allowed in, the respective response also is allowed out. And it's the same the other way around, because by default, a security group doesn't allow any incoming traffic. But if the instance makes a request to the internet because it wants to pull a security patch, it makes an outbound request, which is allowed by default. It makes an outbound request. So the response, and only the response to that request, is automatically allowed back in. So you don't have to open any ports on the security group. This is different with a network access control list, because that is stateless. It does not remember if there was a request. So any traffic, inbound and outbound, be it requests or responses, must be explicitly allowed. And that's the difference between stateful firewalls and stateless firewalls. The security group is a stateful firewall, and the network access control list is a stateless firewall. And that's really important. So, okay, Raja is asking something. Even SSH access is not allowed by default. You're stumped. Yes, I understand why this is surprising. However, by default, nothing is allowed. So you need to explicitly open up whatever you want. And that protects you from accidentally having ports open, even though you don't use them, because you may not even want to use SSH on that instance. It could be a Windows instance, so SSH wouldn't make any sense. You would need RDP. Or you wouldn't want to use SSH in the first place, or you wouldn't even want to use any of these protocols for remote access. You would want to use the systems manager, the AWS Systems Manager, to access your instance. And in fact, this is the recommended way. We don't recommend opening the SSH port and using SSH. What we recommend doing is really using the systems manager and opening a terminal connection to the instance through the systems manager. So why is that? Why don't just use SSH? And the reason being is, if you want to use SSH, you need to open the SSH port. And with that, you have a potential threat surface. So somebody else can try and brute force that SSH port because it's open. It is, even though you have it protected, even though you're using a key pair, still, it is a potential threat vector, a potential threat surface. So if you use Systems Manager, only people who have the IAM permissions inside of your AWS account are allowed to use a terminal to access the instance. And the second thing that's really important, if you access an instance using SSH, you don't have, first of all, it is not integrated with IAM, with Identity and Access Management. Second, it is not audited. So you don't have any information what somebody did on the instance. So if somebody uses SSH and goes into the instance, does something, and then deletes the log files in the instance, deletes the bash history and everything, you will not know what happened. But if somebody goes through Systems Manager, the access is being audited because it's using an AWS service. So that's really important. We recommend using Systems Manager to connect to an instance, Systems Manager, Session Manager. And I actually have a video for that. Give me a second. I'll look that up real quick. Where's my Firefox? Where is it? Here we go. So YouTube, I actually made a video that's explaining that thing. Let me look it up real quick. SSH, no, SSM. Yeah, here we go. I've got a video. This one is it. I'm just gonna post the link here. Siva, thanks for joining the raffle. One thing you need to put the exclamation mark and the raffle right next to each other without a space in between. Just type exclamation mark raffle, and then it should work. So that link is a video where I'm showing you how you can access your EC2 instance without the need of a key file and without the need of an SSH client. All right, cool. So that's that. Hey, Hemanan, good to see you. Hey, great. I'm happy to see so many familiar faces. Good. I'm going to the next question here. And if you have any questions, please let me know. All right. Which of the following are types of VPC endpoints? Choose two. We've got interface endpoint, peering endpoint, gateway endpoint, and service endpoint. Chat, let me know. What do you think? Is it A, B, C, or D? It's two again. And if anything is unclear regarding the last question with statefulness and statelessness and everything, please just let me know in the chat. SBC says A and C, interface and gateway endpoint. Anybody else? A and C. Shiva says B and C. And I can see Siva, Vivek says A and C. Pawan says A and C. Cool. And I can see many people have joined. Let me know where you're from, because we've got someone from the United States, from Arizona. We've got someone from India. I myself, I'm in Germany, right in the middle, in between the two. Where's everybody else coming from? I can see a few names that sound. I'm sorry if I'm messing that up, but they sound like they're from India or maybe the region around India. Let me know where you're from. So everybody says A and C. Some people say B and C. Okay, again. Once again, A and C is correct. Pawan is from India. Nice, welcome. Good to see you on the show. We've got an interface endpoint. Vivek is from India too. Awesome. And we've got the gateway endpoint. We don't have peering endpoints, and we don't have service endpoints inside of a VPC. Certainly, some services have their endpoints, but these are not types of VPC endpoints. The two types of VPC endpoints really are interface endpoints and gateway endpoints. And the difference here is an interface endpoint actually is represented by a network interface. Just like your EC2 instance has an ENI, an elastic network interface that has an IP address and you can communicate with it, other services, like for instance, DynamoDB, can have an interface endpoint as well. So they have they act like a network interface that you can communicate with, that can have a DNS name, that has an IP address. And the other thing is a gateway endpoint. And the gateway endpoint really is not a specific IP address, a specific network interface that you can communicate with, but it's a gateway that your route table can point to. So just like your route table can point to the internet gateway to communicate to the internet, or to the virtual private gateway to communicate with your VPN, or through your VPN connection, it can also have a, for instance, S3 gateway. So it can communicate with S3 without having to go through the internet. One of the properties of S3 is that S3 has a rather large range of IP addresses. And the gateway endpoint simply knows all these IP address ranges. And whenever somebody tries to access any of these IP addresses, trying to communicate with S3, it is being sent through the routing table. It's being sent to the S3 gateway endpoint. And that really is the difference. The interface endpoint is a network interface, and the service behind that is accessible through that network interface. So it's part of your subnet. And the gateway endpoint is an endpoint that your route table can point to. So whenever somebody needs to access S3 from the VPC without using the public internet, without going over the internet gateway, it can directly go through the S3 gateway endpoint. That's the difference. So we have lots of people from India here. That's really great. Pranali, good to see you. Thanks for joining the raffle. So next question. And welcome to everyone who joined. We're just running through a number of AWS certification practice questions. These are very similar. These are not actual questions because I'm not allowed to use any actual questions, but they are very close to the actual questions of the Solutions Architect Associate exam. But they also apply to the developer or the sysadmin exam. So if you're studying for the exam, or if you just want to learn about AWS or brush up your knowledge, please join, take part in the chat. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll try to answer everything. I'll try to bring my knowledge about AWS for you to understand, because it's not only about passing the certification, it really is about understanding why these things work the way they do. So we've got the next question, and we already are getting the first answers. What data is encrypted when you create an encrypted EBS volume? Data addressed inside the volume, data moving between the volume and the attached instance, data inside S3 buckets that store the encrypted instance, or data in an EFS on instances attached to the volume. And I'm already getting the first answers. A and B. Raja says A and B. SPC says A and B. Hemanand, I'm sorry. In Germany, we have the name Hermann. And Hemanand, your name, it's similarly written, and this is why I always associate it with the German name. Hemanand says AB, Pranali says A and B, Vivek says A and B, Thumless says A and B, and all of you, of course, are correct. Very good, very good. So what's important here? I will call you Hem from now on. Thank you so much. I will do that. So, if you encrypt your volume, your EBS volume, 3 things are being encrypted. 2 of those are here on this screen, and the third one, I would like to ask you, Chad, do you know what the third thing is that's being encrypted if you have an encrypted EBS volume? That's automatically encrypted if you have an encrypted EBS volume? Let me know in the chat. While you do that, I'll talk about that. I'll talk about the answers real quick. So the most important thing, of course, is encryption of data addressed inside of the volume. So whenever you have an encrypted EBS volume, the data on the actual device is encrypted. So if anybody ever would get hold of that device, of that hard drive, and would try and access the data, they could not read the data because it is encrypted. Nobody does get access because we make sure that our data centers are physically secure, and whenever a drive is being basically, whenever a drive isn't used by one customer anymore and it's being used by another customer, we make sure to delete all the data on the drive before we let another customer use it. And if we decommission a drive, so at the end of its life, we decommission it by really destroying the drive. So we don't just throw it into the garbage and somebody can pick it out. We destroy the drives. We physically, mechanically destroy the drives. So nobody ever can access the data, but even if they could, the data is encrypted addressed. And the second thing is B, data automatically. If you have an encrypted EBS volume, the connection between the volume and the EC2 instance will be encrypted as well. So the data moving between the volume and the EC2 instance will be encrypted as well. So the data in transit is encrypted. And Hem already wrote it in here. Hem, here we have it. The snapshot of the volume would be encrypted as well. And Raja wrote it as well. Volumes created from these snapshots, and SPC wrote that as well, snapshots. And that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly it. The third thing that is automatically encrypted is the snapshot of an encrypted EBS volume. So whenever you create a snapshot, the data stored in S3, the actual snapshot, is encrypted as well. And that's the important thing. All the data will be encrypted, not just the data on the volume, but also the data moving between the volume and the instance and the snapshot. Let's have a look at the other two. Why don't they make sense? Let's see. C, data inside S3 buckets that store the encrypted instance. EBS volumes are not stored in S3. EBS volumes are stored on SSDs, or we even have mechanical magnetic hard drives if you want to use them. But S3 is not for block access. It is an object store. And EBS volumes are block volumes, like a hard drive or an SSD. And so an encrypted instance is not stored in S3. A snapshot is. So if you make a snapshot, and that's stored in S3, but the instance or the volume, that doesn't even make any sense. And D, data in an EFS on instances attached to the volume, that doesn't make any sense at all, because EFS, the elastic file system, is something entirely different and has nothing to do with EBS. So if you encrypt EBS, it has no effect on EFS. And if you encrypt EFS, it has no effect on EBS. So you're all right. A and B is the correct answer here. Next one. That one's easy. And we had an interesting discussion about that on YouTube, in the YouTube comments, when I posted that question about 1 or 2 weeks ago. You need to transfer 50 terabyte of data into S3 and want to avoid lengthy network exchanges and saturation. What option would provide you with inexpensive data transfer at large scale? Storage gateway, S3 transfer acceleration, Glacier, or Snowball? And everybody in the chat is right. Everybody says Snowball. Everybody says D, and this is exactly it. Snowball is a service where we send you a device, a rugged, basically a computer. We send you a rugged device, which is called Snowball Edge. And the Snowball Edge, you can plug that into your network and store your data on it and then ship it back to us. And we will then transfer all the data from that device onto into your S3 buckets. In the past, we used to have a service called AWS Import Export, which was where you just sent us your hard drives or your CDs or your media containing your data, and we would copy the data. But that didn't scale at all, because people have different kinds of devices. Also, devices can break on their way being transported, and also not much data fits on a DVD or on a hard drive. So what we did is we created the Snowball service, and with it the Snowball devices, the original one called Snowball, the current one called Snowball Edge, because it also has compute power. You can even run compute workloads on these devices, and they're being used. I think current Edge devices can have between 80 and 100 terabyte of data each. And they are really what you should use if you want to transfer a lot of data. You could even think about using Snowball starting at around 10 terabytes of data that you need to transfer. Because if you have to use your network connection, especially if you don't have a direct connect, this can take a really long time. And it costs a lot of money because you need to push all the data through your network. So, right, SPC says it right now, it's Snowball Edge. So the device is called Snowball Edge. The service itself is still called Snowball, AWS Snowball, and the device is Snowball Edge. And we also have Snow Cone, which is a smaller device. And we have a Snow Mobile, which is a rather large device, which is a truck. Unfortunately, we don't have that service in Germany, so I'm not able to use it here. I haven't seen these trucks yet. As far as I know, we only provide this service in the US by now. Okay, cool, great. I'll have a look at the watch. I need a drink. So, but you're right, SPC, the device itself is called Snowball Edge. Next one. In networking again. You'll find a lot of networking questions in the Solutions Architect exam, as well as the sysadmin exam. You won't find many of those in the developer associate exam. So what is route propagation or route propagation? People pronounce that differently. What is route propagation with respect to virtual private gateway? And now only one answer is correct. A, it copies all routes from an on-site network to a VPC's routing tables. B, it helps avoid manually entering VPN routes into your VPC routing tables. C, it automatically allows inbound traffic from your on-premises connection. I have a typo there. And D, it enables storage-based traffic from a customer's storage gateway. SBC says B, Raja says B. And for everybody who just joined, if you wanna have a chance to win, we've got that down here right now. If you wanna have a chance to win $25 in AWS credits, if you're on YouTube, because the chatbot can only listen on YouTube, just post !raffle in the comments, and you have the chance to win an AWS credit voucher to use in your account at the end of the stream in about 17 minutes. So cool. All right. People say B. Anybody else on chat? What do you think? B. Any other opinions? Because in the YouTube video, in the comments of the respective YouTube video, and for everybody who doesn't know about that, while I'm talking about it, let me see. While I'm talking about that, Firefox, where's my Firefox? Here we go. I have a playlist with tons of practice questions. So if you are studying for a certification exam, please have a look at the playlist. Playlist with tons of questions. Please have a look at that playlist. Many people wrote me in the past telling me that they had just passed their exam, and one of the things they did was just go through all these questions. They're real quick, not even a minute each, where you can really have a look and practice for your exam. And I'm putting out 3 of these each week, and every 2 weeks I discuss the questions on this stream from the 2 weeks prior. So, okay, everybody said B, and B is, of course, correct. Some people said A. Let me go back, make that lighter. Some people said A in the YouTube comments, and it sounds right somehow, but A would be too broad. It does not copy all routes from an on-site network. It copies certain routes from an on-site network. And by doing that, it helps avoid manually entering VPN routes into your VPC's routing tables. So it does not copy all routes, it copies certain routes, and this way you don't have to do it manually. Chad, does anybody know the name of the protocol that's being used for that, for route propagation? Do we have any networking experts here? What's that protocol that's being used for route propagation between networks? And while you're telling me that, I'm just trying to, yeah, right, exactly. Hem's got it right. It's BGP. And BGP is I think it's the border, and SBC's got it too. I think it's the border gateway protocol. Let me look it up real quick. I don't want to make any mistakes. Yeah, right. It's the border gateway protocol. And this is how networks that are connected to each other communicate with each other and tell each other which IP addresses they have, so that the other network knows when I want to go to 10.2.3.50, I need to use that route to that network because that's the network over there. So networks exchange their IP addresses so that they can communicate with each other. Border gateway protocol. Yes, perfect. Very good. Very good. I've got a few experts on here, and that's really great. Okay, cool. Next one. Oh, that was it. That was it. Cool. Let me. I'm not sure if I set that up. Give me just 1 second. Event for the feedback. I've been logged out. I have to log in again. Just real quick. So where's my survey? Here we go. Cool. So please, we at Amazon and AWS, we are a data-driven company. We try to collect data. We try to understand how people like what we do. And especially since this is virtual, you are interacting with me in the chat, which is really great, which I really enjoy. But I really would like to understand if you enjoy what I'm doing, if this provides value to you, please give me feedback. Use this address, bit.ly/feedback-dennis, to let me know if you like the show, if there's anything I can do, because that really helps me understand, especially when I don't see you in person and we can't really talk, which is a shame. I would like to meet you, but I can't, at least not now. And so I'd be happy to have you give me some feedback. And while you do that, sorry, whoever hasn't joined the raffle yet, I can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in the raffle. Whoever hasn't joined the raffle yet, if you are on YouTube, and unfortunately, this is a prerequisite. You need to be on YouTube because hey, Ahmed, hey, it's totally fine. Don't worry that you're late. We went through a number of questions, but we'll be online. And if you want to look at it afterwards, I'll leave it online so you can look at it. Good to see you anyway. So thank you for coming. For everybody else, Ahmed, he's been around from the first day. He's one of those really, really, really great people who've been interacting on the videos in the chat and everything. And really, it's great to see you. So good. So everybody who hasn't yet, please join the raffle. To do that, you need to be on YouTube because the chatbot is not listening on Twitch or on LinkedIn. So you need to be on YouTube. And I'll post the link to the YouTube video here real quick. Give me 1 second. Just for those who are not on YouTube, where is it? Get shareable link. Here we go. That's the stream on YouTube. And unfortunately, it's not posting to LinkedIn as far as I can see. Anyway, I'll put it up on, no, just go to youtube.com/Dennis Traub and you'll find it. Anyway, if you haven't joined the raffle yet, please type !raffle, just like Hemanand just did, and you will be able to enter the raffle and you will be eligible to win $25 of AWS credits that yet you can use in your account to test services that may not be part of the free tier. So I would say I'll give you another minute or two to enter the raffle. While you're doing that, I'm here. If you have any questions, let me know. If you're going to sit the exam soon, let me know. If you just have passed any of the exams, please let me know. I'm here. I'm happy to help as good as I can. So cool. While people are joining the raffle, nobody really is anymore. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. Hemanand, you're already on there. Everybody is cool. Yeah. And as you can see down there, if you enjoy this video, please make sure to push the like button, because that gives my channel, or gives YouTube, lets YouTube understand who would like to watch, or who watches these videos, so that other people can get value out of it. Okay, we've got a question here. I'll pick that question real quick. Hemanand, how much time would be ideal for SA Pro prep? So I can tell you, it took me 3 months. And I had a lot of experience with AWS. I worked with AWS on a daily basis. So I did the SA Pro before I actually joined AWS as an employee. That was in my previous role. Before that, I used to work for an AWS partner as a consultant in software delivery. And it took me about 3 months to study and practice for the SA Pro. And of course, I wasn't able to do that full time. I did it whenever I had the time, but it took about 3 months. And after about 3 months, I felt like I'm safe. I'm safe to try the exam, and I passed in the first try. Actually, it was the same thing for the DevOps Engineer Pro, which I did as well a few years ago. And for that also, I took 3 months. I took 3 months to study and prepare for the exam. So the Pro, the professional, this is really difficult. This is not just what service can you use for what. It really is scenario-based, where it's about a certain situation with tons of requirements and everything, and you have a couple of answers. All of them sound correctly. All of them are correct in some way or form. But then there's one that is really correct because it takes all the requirements into account. And what's really important in general, no matter what certification you do on AWS, really, you need to read the question. It's really important to read, and if necessary, reread and understand the question. If you do that, and if you have your knowledge down, you'll be fine. So cool. Thank you for the question. Next one. How to get solution architect associate job without experience in cloud, but from different domain? Okay, that's a very good question. To get a job without experience is the tough part, because most companies are looking for experienced people. You can try and get an entry-level role. Many companies are looking for entry-level folks without experience, but who are curious and want to learn. But what really helps doing is, we have got tons of resources. We have lots of free training videos. We have lots of workshops, hands-on labs, guided hands-on labs on the internet that you can use to get experience. Even if it's not real customer experience on a real workload, you still can get the experience by going through the labs, by trying something, by experimenting, maybe even contributing to an open source project. And I'm gonna send you, just 1 second, I'm gonna send you 2 links. We've got the AWS ramp up guides, and I'll post that here. AWS ramp up guides, where you find information on all kinds of training that you can have. A lot of that is free of charge that you can use from AWS, directly from AWS. And the other thing is, let me see, workshops. Right. The other thing is this website, AWS Workshops. This is a collection, and that's growing all the time here. This is a collection that's growing all the time, where you have all kinds of hands-on labs that you can run through. Some of those will use services that have a cost, but usually it's very little. It is not very expensive. In many cases, it can be done using the free tier. So we have the ramp up guides. Just look for AWS ramp up guides in Google, and we have the workshops.aws. So, and that's how to get experience. If you don't have, and that's somehow a catch-22 situation. If you don't have the job, it's hard to get the experience. If you don't have the experience, it can be hard to get a job. But what you can do really is work and learn and practice on the side using training resources. Maybe do a certification, get a certification, and get some hands-on experience, because then you have the experience. Once you have some hands-on experience, you are much better off. Another question: would you recommend developer associate or solutions architect associate for a backend developer with 6 to 7 years of experience? I would recommend starting with solutions architect, because that is the broadest. This is where you'll learn how to think about architecture in the cloud. This is where you'll learn about a lot of services on AWS. Developer associate is more focused on how to build software in AWS. That can be important, and you'll learn a lot there too. But the solutions architect associate is a great starting point, because once you have learned and studied for that, most of what you've learned for the solutions architect is applicable to the developer associate as well. So you can do both. And I have a video. Where I talk about, let me see. I have a video where I talk about my own certification journey, and why I went the way I would. My certification guide. Here we go. That's a video. That doesn't make any sense because you can't type that link. Anyway, you find that if you Google on my channel, AWS Certification Guide 2021. Do we have another question? Let me see. How much time will you be? Okay, thumbless. As you said, as I said, I won't have a series specifically for the developer associate, because most of what you learn here and most of what you learn when you study for the solutions architect also applies to developer. Developer looks a little more into Lambda functions and DynamoDB and things like that. This is more about networking and architecture and security and all the architectural things. I will not do this kind of series when it comes specifically to DynamoDB and Lambda functions, but I might make a video every now and then talking about these services, but not as part of this certification quiz. But most of what you learn here also applies to developer associate. Thanks for the question. So one more. How to remove a spot instance after completing the job? Well, that is a very in-depth question. And what I would advise you to do, I cannot answer that real quick. We don't have much time left. Let me see. SQS scaling ET2. You can do the following. I will post a link here, and maybe that helps your question, because right now we don't have the time anymore for me to answer it. I'm posting this link here for Ahmed, who asked how to remove a spot instance after complete the job. A pattern that we quite often use really is provide the job to the EC2 instance via SQS, the simple queue service. And then whenever there is a job, a message on SQS, you can fire up an instance, and once the message has been processed, the instance can scale back down. And I don't know if this answers your question. If it doesn't, please hit me up. You know how to reach me on YouTube or on Twitter. Just hit me up, let me know, then we might be able to discuss it. Or bring it to the next session 2 weeks from now, where we have a little more time. I will close the raffle entries now. And cool, and pick a winner. Now let's see. Who is the lucky winner? Drum roll. Come on. Pranali Mande has won an AWS credit voucher worth $25. Congratulations. Please get in touch using my email address. That's traubd@amazon.com. This one. Pranali, please get in touch. Let me know, and I will send you the voucher and what you need to get it, to redeem it in your AWS account. Hey, Darko. Hey, good to see you. You're late to the party. Darko actually is a colleague of mine. Darko is a colleague of mine. We're just wrapping up. We're just done. We've just raffled out a voucher, an AWS credit voucher. Pranali is the winner. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I just had a lot of fun, and it was some really interesting discussions today. Thanks for joining. Please make sure to like this video and watch my videos if they're valuable to you. And now I'm starting to ramble. Thank you anyway. Thanks. Take care. Goodbye. Have a nice weekend. See you next week. Take care.